Good.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen present. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell not present. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Kim not present. Supervisor Peskin.
Present.
Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan.
Present.
Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai present. Supervisor Sheehy.
Present.
Sheehy present. Supervisor Tang.
Present.
Tang present. Supervisor Yee. Yee present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President, we are in receipt of two communications. The first is from Supervisor Farrell, requesting to be excused from the board meeting today, as well as Supervisor Kim with the same request.
Colleagues, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Farrell and Supervisor Kim, moved by Supervisor Peskin, seconded by Supervisor Tang? Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, Supervisor Kim and Supervisor Farrell are excused today. All right. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, are the approval of the meeting minutes.
Colleagues, are there any changes to the May 9, 2017 board meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Supervisor Tang, seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved after public comment. Let's go to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
Items 1 through 7 are on consent. These items are considered to be routine. If a member objects, an item may be removed and considered separately.
Seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On items 1 through 7, Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. There are 9 ayes.
Those items are passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to items. The next item, please call 8 and 9 together.
Item 8 is the proposed interim budget and appropriation ordinance appropriating all estimated receipts and all estimated expenditures for departments of the city as of May 31st, 2017. And item 9 is the proposed interim annual salary ordinance enumerating positions in the annual budget and appropriation ordinance, both for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Colleagues, can we take those items, same house, same call? Without objection, those ordinances are finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 10 and 11 together.
Item 10 is the ordinance to amend the Planning Code to reorganize Article 7, and item 11 amends the Planning Code Article 7, both to update, correct, clarify, and simplify code language and other Planning Code sections, to delete zoning control tables that are superseded by new zoning control tables in a companion ordinance, and to delete duplicate definitions previously located to Article 2 and related outdated text to affirm the CEQA determination and make the appropriate findings.
Same house, same call. Without objection, those ordinances are finally passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 12 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to allow tenants who have been displaced by fires to receive payments from the Fire Victims Assistance Fund for up to 4 years instead of 2 if they earn 70% of the area median income or less, have not secured permanent replacement housing, and have applied for an affordable housing preference from the city as a tenant displaced by a fire.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance is finally passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 13 is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1061 entitled Regulation and Width of Sidewalks to change the official sidewalk width of certain locations. First, along First Street, southeast of Mission Street, along Mission Street, between First and Fremont Streets, and along Fremont Street, southeast of Mission Street, and creating a new sidewalk bulb out at the east corner of First and Mission Streets to affirm the CEQA determination and make the appropriate findings.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the ordinance is passed unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 14 is a resolution approving and authorizing an agreement for the conveyance of a parcel of real estate located at 2070 Bryant Street, consisting of approximately 19,000 square feet of land, to the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to affirm the CEQA determination and make the appropriate findings.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 15 is an ordinance amending the health code to prohibit tobacco retailers from selling flavored tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Happy Pride to you today. This legislation before us today, frankly, is landmark legislation. It's a very exciting time. And this legislation is created to restrict the sale of flavored tobacco here in the city and county of San Francisco. I think it's terrific that today we are celebrating Pride Month. We're voting on an ordinance that's aimed at eliminating acute tobacco-related health disparities that impact the LGBTQ community as well as communities of color. And it's no secret that flavored tobacco products are widely considered by health experts to be starter products. They taste good, they mask the harsh flavor of tobacco, and it makes it easier for people experimenting with tobacco to become lifelong users. So tobacco is a distinctly harmful product. When used correctly, it kills you. The impact of tobacco is not debatable. There's enough science out there that confirms and sustains what we already know, that it's a killer. It's been substantiated through scientific research, and we want to enhance our prevention strategies to reduce the burden of preventable death and disease across all of San Francisco, every corner. So I recognize that in this ordinance, which frankly is a very clear health policy, I recognize that it will have an impact on small businesses in San Francisco. And in response to the ongoing dialogue that I've had with advocates, small business owners, and convenience store owners, I want to help them be able to make this transition. I'd like to propose a few amendments for you all to consider here today. It's very simple. I want to move the operative date of the legislation from January 1st, 2018 to April 1st, 2018, thus allowing them a little bit more time to come in compliance with the law. I think this is reasonable. Additionally, it's customary to define outreach and enforcement to tobacco retailers within the Department of Public Health regulations. And we do this to ensure that businesses have all of the necessary information that they need. Now, while significant gains are around the tobacco controls have been made, not everyone has benefited from tobacco control policies and education campaigns. So what we need to be cognizant of is that everything that the tobacco industry puts before us has been studied and tested. Everything from the label to the flavors of these companies that they're choosing for their products, it's done with intent. And that intent is to simply undermine the work of parents, undermine the work of school, undermine the work of health organizations to keep tobacco away from children. So the goal of this ordinance is to keep people from smoking in the first place. Now, what you don't know, or you may not know, is that the freedom of choice isn't really free. And that if we are collectively paying $380 million annually for tobacco-related death, tobacco-related healthcare expenses, then what we're talking about is we're talking about a fiscal impact on our general fund. And frankly, as we're speaking now, we've got the federal government that's abdicating their responsibility to protect public health through its ongoing attempts to roll back healthcare access. Frankly, colleagues, this is the right and the duty of the states and the localities to ensure that our communities are healthy, solvent, and safe. So there are many people that I would like to recognize and I want to thank in this. First and foremost, I want to recognize Brittany Chiquata, my legislative aide, who has been carrying this from inception of just an idea from start to finish. She's been an incredible asset to our team, and I want to thank her. I also want to thank the city attorney, Ann Pearson, who's a fierce advocate. Whether you guys know it or not, she's incredible. She's done a tremendous amount of work around this particular ordinance, and I also want to recognize Carol Magruder, Dr. Phil Gardner, and also Dr. Valerie Yerger. These folks have been also just as instrumental. I want to thank them for their ongoing elevation of the critical need to address this issue, an issue, frankly, that I think that's fallen on deaf ears for a very long time because it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And you guys have been at the forefront. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I also want to thank Bob Gordon and Tanya Williams for co-chairs of the SF Tobacco Free Coalition for their advocacy and education and coordination around this issue. We've got so many partners that have joined us since the beginning of the day that we introduced this legislation. I also want to recognize UCSF, the Helen Diller Cancer Center, and a whole host of other advocates who've been working towards a policy for many years, much before I even stepped up on the scene to come and help and be a champion. So, colleagues, it's simple. In closing, I hope that you will join me. I ask for your support in this because, frankly, we will prevent lifelong addiction. It prioritizes health opportunities and outcomes of citywide constituents, especially those from vulnerable populations. And not only are we in the business, not only will we be saving lives, but we will be saving a few dollars as well. So thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions for you. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Cohen has made a motion to amend. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take the amendments without objection? Without objection, the amendments pass. Supervisor Fuhr.
Thank you, Chair. I support this ordinance and its goals of reducing smoking, particularly among youth. I'd like to thank Supervisor Cohen for addressing this growing problem. I would also like to emphasize that as we continue to regulate tobacco use and work to discourage smoking, we need to make sure that our mom and pop small businesses that have historically relied on the sales of tobacco and alcohol are not driven out of existence. Many of these stores and store owners are in fact good neighbors and provide good services and social support that are often important resources, especially in our low-income communities. We know that there is a real desire on the part of many of these businesses to move away from the reliance on tobacco and alcohol sales, and I think we need to do everything possible to support them in attaining these goals. I will soon be asking the Budget and Legislative Analyst Office to conduct a study on the city's regulatory scheme of tobacco and alcohol fees and penalties that these businesses face. I would also like this report to contain a set of recommendations that will mitigate the impacts of our ongoing regulation of alcohol and tobacco that will result in more sustainable and healthy corner stores. I also want to mention that OEWD has plans to increase the amount of money available for store makeovers by $200,000. We don't have any details about this, so it would be a good idea to put this in healthy retail until the details are worked out. Again, thank you, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you, Supervisor Fuhr. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Cohen, I think we owe you a great deal of gratitude because can you imagine it's 2017 and we're dealing with something, as we learned in committee, started back in the 50s. Menthol cigarettes are one of the most addictive cigarettes, and in many of the studies that you brought forward through the coalition that you brought together here, almost 80% of African Americans that smoke the most addictive cigarettes. And it's not often that we deal with issues in this chamber that truly are about saving lives, and this legislation is about saving lives. So thank you for your leadership on that. This is also about protecting our most vulnerable. Another part of the study that you brought forward talked about how over 80% of teenagers that began smoking smoked flavored tobacco. These are, and if you haven't smoked by 21 years old, you most likely will not be a smoker. So that's what this is about. This is about cultivating the next generation of smokers to fill an industry that in some ways is dying in certain communities but is thriving in other communities. And it's our Pacific Islanders, it's our African Americans, our LGBTQ community, it's our Asian Americans, it's predominantly low-income communities of color that are feeding one of the most deadly industries in the entire United States. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for inviting me to be your lead co-sponsor, and I am proud to support this legislation today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Supervisor Sheehy.
Likewise, I would like to thank Supervisor Cohen for her courageous leadership in moving this forward. As we talk about Pride this week, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring up the Project Scum, which was a marketing campaign by the Reynolds Company that targeted alternative lifestyle areas of San Francisco. In particular, LGBT folk, homeless people, the various diverse communities that exist here, and it took its toll. Many people got addicted to cigarettes because of that. And now we have this new way to try to hook people by selling cigarettes that, frankly, if you were at our hearing, you saw some of the products, it looks like candy. Yep. It's indistinguishable from candy bars that are being sold in these stores. So I think this is a great step forward to kind of cut off an avenue that the tobacco companies are trying to use to hook our kids so that they can still have a market. And I really do appreciate your leadership on this, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. There's a few points that I also want to talk about. One thing that I've heard consistently that has struck a chord with me is a concern that I've heard from the small business community, because we are not looking to create policies that are going to be putting small businesses out of business, and I'm very sensitive to that. So the question is how are we going to help small businesses and convenience stores that are impacted by this legislation? And I want to put out there that I'm interested in expanding the corner store retail program in our city's budget this year to help small business owners make a transition from selling a poisonous commodity into something that is more beneficial to the neighborhood. So much like we have the corner store program that we have in the Tenderloin and in the Bayview, where we've got a lot of liquor stores that are selling a lot of bad things. We've worked with them to reconfigure their floor plan and the products that they're selling so that they are selling healthier options. Like in the Bayview, we've struggled with trying to find grocery stores, but we've worked with the liquor stores that have been able to sell and make a profit, been able to sell healthy products. So this is, I think, an opportunity for us that's a win-win, for us to really turn not only a policy, a health policy, that's positive for all of constituents, but not turn a blind eye or a deaf ear to the small businesses, because they're just as important in this conversation. I also want to recognize that there are certain shops that will be without question impacted by the legislation, but our local economist has determined that the vast majority of the retailers in our city sell less than 50 packs of cigarettes, and that includes flavored tobacco and non-flavored tobacco. So the science also tells us, the data also tells us that they are selling less cigarettes and it's decreasing annually. So I'm going to be working with the committee of retailers and small businesses. So again, like I said, to help them adjust their models to begin to accommodate this legislation and to again take into account their economic interest and viability in our city. And with that said, Madam Clerk and Madam President, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, can we take this item, same House, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously as amended on the first reading. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Thank you, Judge.
Item 16 is a motion confirming the Rules Committee's nomination of and reappointment of Petra de Jesus, term ending April 30th, 2021, to the Police Commission.
Supervisor Ronan.
Yes, colleagues, I could not be more excited today to be voting to reappoint Petra de Jesus to the Police Commission, especially at this time in San Francisco's history. As the oversight to the Police Commission in San Francisco is critical in our efforts to implement meaningful police reform. More than ever, San Francisco needs experienced and independent police commissioners who can hold police officers accountable while ensuring public safety for all San Francisco residents. In Petra de Jesus, police officers and residents of San Francisco have a police commissioner with the background and experience needed to achieve meaningful police reform. A native of San Francisco, Petra de Jesus has a long history of serving and representing marginalized groups in our city. As an attorney for the past 17 years, Petra has worked extensively with low-income families and understands public safety issues from all sides. As a queer Latina leader, Petra also understands the need to include all of the diverse communities in San Francisco in discussions of police reform and has been the critical link between marginalized communities and the Commission. Throughout her 12 years as a police commissioner, Petra has earned a reputation as a focused, transparent, and independently minded member. Her comments and questions often tackle the most sensitive and pressing issues facing our police force while demonstrating the respect and self-restraint required for her seat. As the department undergoes a period of change in leadership and protocol, Petra has taken a leading role in the reform process. During her time on the Commission, she has taken the lead in working with the Department of Justice around the issues of racial profiling, bias, and the use of force. Petra has also cautioned against further militarization of our police force and has focused instead on the health and the well-being of both officers and the residents that they interact with. Petra de Jesus has proven to be an invaluable member of the Police Commission over the past 12 years, and if reappointed, I have no doubt that she will continue to play a critical role in ensuring our police force best serves all who call San Francisco home. Colleagues, it's an honor to be voting to reappoint Petra today, and I hope you will join me in supporting her. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, and again, in the spirit of pride, I am very honored to support Petra de Jesus, a member of our community, the LGBT community, who has served with such distinction over the past, how many years? 10 years?
12 years.
12 years, sorry. I look forward to casting this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, Madam Clerk, on the item, please call the roll.
Supervisor Sheehy?
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer? Fewer, aye. Supervisor Peskin?
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan?
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai?
No.
Safai, no. There are 8 ayes, 1 no, with Supervisor Safai in the dissent.
The motion is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Item 17 is a motion appointing Dave Marin and reappointing Jason Oringer and Juval Miller and Julene Fisher, terms ending December 17th, 2017, to the Sweat-Free Procurement Advisory Group.
Roll call vote.
On item 17, Supervisor Sheehy?
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer?
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Peskin?
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan?
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai? Safai, aye. There are 9 ayes.
The motion is approved unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 18 is a motion reappointing Fiona Hinsey, term ending April 27th, 2019, to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
Colleagues, can we take this item? Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 19 is a motion appointing Michelle Kim, residency requirement waived, for an indefinite term to the Food Security Task Force.
Colleagues, can we take this item? Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 20 is a motion appointing Mario Paz, residency requirement waived, term ending March 19th, 2018, to the Child Care Planning and Advisory Council.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 21, motion appointing William Pitts, term ending March 1st, 2020, to the In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 22 is a motion appointing Alex Mitra and reappointing Darcy Brown, Daniel Kling, and Rebecca Delgado Rotman, terms ending April 10th, 2019, to the Graffiti Advisory Board.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
First to introduce new business, Supervisor Sheehy.
Submit.
Okay, Supervisor Tang.
Submit.
Supervisor Yee. Re-refer. Okay, Supervisor Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I'm introducing a resolution supporting California State Bill AB 186, authored by Assemblymember Susan Eggman and Senator Scott Wiener. AB 186, the Safer Substance Use Services Act, allows local governments within Alameda, Fresno, Humboldt, Los Angeles, Mendocino, San Francisco, and San Joaquin and Santa Cruz the discretion to authorize public health and medical intervention programs intended to reduce death, disability, or injury due to the use of controlled substances. In light of our recently launched Safe Injection Services Task Force, it's prudent that we support safe efforts that will help us battle our homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse crises here in San Francisco. We created the task force because we can't afford to sit on the sidelines while over 100 people are dying on our streets every day due to overdoses, and while people are shooting up on our sidewalks in broad daylight, and we see syringes littered in our streets and our parks. We must look at all options, and safe injection services as a harm reduction model could potentially be one of those options. There are approximately 100 safe injection sites currently operating in over 65 cities around the world, and they've been successful. I had the opportunity to visit one in Vancouver, and I was extremely impressed. It's worth seeing how these services are working in other cities and how they could possibly be replicated in San Francisco. Through our task force, we're looking at the data to get a better understanding of how we would develop a San Francisco tailored solution. Specifically, for one thing, we have existing needle service facilities that could potentially offer safe injection sites without the need to open a new facility. By providing essential wraparound services like detox case management and mental health services, safe injection could not only prevent overdoses, but it can help individuals into rehabilitation and give them the ability to hopefully change their lives. A 2016 cost-benefit analysis of potential safe injection services in San Francisco found that the city would save $3.5 million per year if one safe injection program were opened, meaning effective alternative solutions can end up saving taxpayer dollars as well. We had our first safe injection task force meeting last week. We're learning more about the potential benefits. We're also learning about the challenges and the legal battles ahead. AB 186 would simply give San Francisco the option to open such facilities pursuant to local legislation. It requires that any such program also provide access to drug treatment and other services as well, ensuring that any kind of safe injection services in San Francisco are truly based on a harm reduction model. Our Safe Injection Task Force has 2 more meetings, one on July 21st and August 10th. Details on these meetings can be found on the Department of Public Health website for those who are interested in taking part of this conversation. I strongly suggest you participate and let your voices be heard. And the rest I submit. And with that, Madam Clerk, it is now 2:30, and we will resume roll call for introductions after our special commendations today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today, we have a number of special commendations, but before we get started with our LGBTQ commendations given by each member of the Board of Supervisors, led by Supervisor Sheehy, I want to recognize Supervisor Peskin for a special commendation today of a very special person.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your indulgence and exception to your one supervisor, one commendation rule. And it really is my privilege to be honoring Ruth Gottstein an individual who embodies the true San Francisco spirit for quite some time, unique, authentic, passionate, and willing to dedicate her life to working and fighting for a more just world. Come on up, Ruth. For those of you who do not know her, Ruth was born in 1922 to Etta and Bernard Zackheim, who moved to San Francisco shortly after her birth. Her father, Bernard, was a pioneering Jewish artist and one of the first artists in the nation to be hired by President Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal program and put to work painting art on public buildings. As a young girl, she watched her father and 24 other muralists paint the renowned murals inside Coit Tower, sparking a lifelong commitment to championing public art and justice. Ruth is the only person still alive who vividly remembers the smell of the wet plaster inside Coit Tower when the fresco murals were being painted, and the spirit of harmony among the dozens of artists who together painted 27 murals in just a few months. And I note that her father, Bernard, was paid all of $619 for that many months of work. Ruth brought those vivid firsthand memories to life 5 years ago when she became the leading voice calling on the city to do a better job preserving, protecting, and honoring these historic murals. Because of her advocacy, a Coit Tower preservation policy measure was passed by the voters in 2012, which spurred a $1.7 million investment in restoring the murals and safeguarding it from water intrusion, as well as preventing the privatization of Coit Tower. Ruth's activism was also inspired by what she saw growing up in San Francisco in the Depression era of the 1930s. Ruth was standing on Market Street when she watched as 40,000 men and women in the family of labor marched solemnly behind two flower-laden caskets bearing the bodies of two workers who had been killed a few days earlier on Bloody Thursday while taking part in the maritime and longshoremen strike of 1934. Ruth became an activist working tirelessly in support of civil rights campaigns and labor causes while raising 3 children with her husband in the Haight-Ashbury. I see her son, Adam. And Ruth devoted her entire professional life to activism in the book publishing industry. In the mid-'70s, she became managing editor for Glide Publications, the progressive publishing arm of Glide Church. Under Ruth's leadership, Glide produced books that dealt with issues of social change, no matter how controversial those ideas might have been deemed at the time. Ruth then founded Volcano Press and published the very first book on domestic violence in the United States in 1976 by Del Martin, entitled Battered Wives. This book was the catalyst for the battered women's shelter movement and is still being used as an educational tool in the prevention of DV and treatment of its victims. For more than 30 years, Volcano Press published books in the field of domestic violence, child and family abuse, and women's health. This year, at the young age of 94, Ruth has finally decided to retire from publishing, but not from activism. She continues to contribute to many worthwhile local causes in the community of Volcano, California, but she visits us now and then and continues to watch over Coit Tower and the city of San Francisco that she loves. Congratulations, Ruth, for an incredible career.
Thank you, Aaron. And I only wish I had been able to hear you. And that's what happens. You get to be sufficiently old, except to say how fortunate I am to be a native of San Francisco, to have my son Adam, native of San Francisco, my 2 granddaughters, Jenny and Jessica. So you still have the young people to contend with. And I just want to thank you all for your good words.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have I
Ruth.
left anything out?
And for those of you who want to see what Ruth looked like as a little kid, Her father actually painted her into one of the murals with her sister, which is up at Coit Tower. I will give you a personal tour if you are interested. Thank you all. Thank you for your indulgence, Madam President.
Yes, yes. I have to live that one down forever.
Ruth, you're really famous now.
This is a thrilling moment.
Congratulations again, Ms. Ruth, and thank you for being here today. All right, folks, with that, we will begin our LGBTQ Pride Week honorees, recognizing our honorees today, and that effort will be led and introduced by Supervisor Jeff Sheehy. Supervisor Sheehy.
Thank you, President Breed. As we celebrate LGBTQ Pride, I am honored that you are joining me to recognize members of the LGBT community at the board. As has been mentioned many times, our dear friend Gilbert passed away earlier this year. And Pride is perhaps the moment that we are most remembered of his unique work, the creation of the rainbow flag. When I think about Gilbert, I think of two things: his fierce determination, his fierce sense of resistance to injustice, and his commitment to diversity. The many colors in the rainbow flag represent the many different people that make up the LGBTQ community. Our community is somewhat unique in that we have been particularly oppressed throughout history, but we're also represented in every other community. When I look at what's going on right now, LGBT folk are Muslims. We are immigrants. We are women. We are cis. We are trans. We are old. We are young. We're people of color. We're found in every community that exists on the planet. And that makes us unique. But it also makes us particularly focused on any oppression that affects any group of people in this world. When you look at conflict, they're LGBTQ Palestinians, they're LGBTQ Israelis. We are part of every struggle that takes place, and we have to be part of every solution. And when I think about Gilbert and his vision of beauty, diversity, and resistance, that's the spirit that I'm filled with, this pride in these really, really dark times. Now for my commendation, I would like to honor members of SF Rescue who brought the visibility of LGBT people to the San Francisco, who bring the visibility LGBTQ people to the San Francisco Fire Department every day. The two leaders, Keith Baraka and Battalion Chief Nicole Jaradovac. Sorry, I butchered your name. So, in honor of LGBTQ Pride Week, I would like to offer a special commendation from the Board of Supervisors to SF Rescue, the 3-year-old group that offers advocacy and support for both past and present LGBTQ firefighters in the San Francisco Fire Department. SF Rescue has become a tremendous asset to the department as it works to improve the department's outreach to the LGBTQ community in recruitment, hiring, and training activities. They have helped establish departmental policy to improve initial academy training on LGBTQ sensitivity issues and to provide continuing education throughout a firefighter's career about these issues, including training for management. Finally, they act as a resource on LGBTQ issues for the department's leadership in an effort to issue a clear statement that there is zero tolerance for acts of discrimination. Whether it be training in diversity in fire academy classes with lectures on cultural diversity and competency, or fire department recruitment booths at the Pride Celebration and the Dyke March, SF Rescue is trailblazing in their efforts to advance progress for LGBTQ firefighters and the entire San Francisco Fire Department. The city owes such deep gratitude to Keith Baraka, who founded SF Rescue in 2014. His personal courage and sacrifice over the course of his firefighting career in the fight for equality in a workplace free of mistreatment and isolation is monumental. I also want to acknowledge, again, Battalion Chief Nicole Jaradovac, who's been such a pivotal force in SF Rescue from the beginning, working hand in hand with Keith. She has also been working with United Fire Service Women in Support of Diversity. I also want to acknowledge the work of Inspector Rob Bourne, Lieutenant Lynette Thompson. One of the crucial supporters of San Francisco Rescue and all the LGBTQ firefighters was the Alice B. Tokelas LGBTQ Democratic Club. Their early and continuing involvement helped make the city more responsive to LGBTQ concerns at the fire department. I also would like to acknowledge Tom O'Connor, President of Firefighters Local 798, for your very, very strong and vigorous support of San Francisco Rescue. And I also would like to acknowledge Joanne Hayes-White for her strong support as well. And note that Fire Commission Steve Nicasio is also here with us, and I want to thank them for their support. Keith and Nicole, thank you again for your activism with San Francisco Rescue, and I invite you to share a few words.
Thank you, Honorable Jeff Sheehy, Board of Supervisors, Fire Chief Hayes White, Fire Commissioner Steve Nicasio, and Local 798 President and board members, and all the citizens of this great city we call San Francisco, the city that has been at the forefront of change and progress for the rest of the country, if not the world. June represents Pride Month, and what better time than to honor one of our own, firefighter Keith Baraka and SF Rescue. I'm here today not only as a product of San Francisco, who grew up in this great city, or even as a firefighter with the SFFD, or even as a resident, but I'm honored to be here as a friend of firefighter Keith Baraka, to honor a man who has started the first LGBTQ employee association of the 150-year history of the SFFD. The late Harvey Milk would have been proud, Keith. There is a saying in the American Fire Service, all that we are, we owe. It was spoken by a pioneer named Dr. Carl Holmes, one of the first African-American firefighters in the country. Much is owed to firefighters like Keith, as he saw how ironic it was that a city as diverse and rich in its culture as San Francisco and its own fire department did not have an LGBTQ association, a fire department that is committed to reflect the community that it served, especially an LGBTQ community, as you said, Supervisor, that continues to fight for equal rights and equal justice across the world. I remember as a new probationary firefighter in San Francisco, we would go out to some of the gay nightclubs over 20 years ago with other gay firefighters, off duty, of course. And I would say to them, where do you guys meet? Where do you get together and talk about issues? And they said, kid, this is it. You're looking at it. It's called Friday Nights at Club Q. Thanks to Keith, we don't have to meet at nightclubs anymore, because 20 years later, Keith decided it was time to form SF Rescue. Your commitment toward excellence and diversity has been demonstrated in your tireless efforts as the SFFD recruitment coordinator, and we have Chief Hayes White to thank for that appointment. You have been a role model to all the young people who dream of becoming SFFD firefighters, as you see here in this room. And they support you today, Keith, and they want to thank you. And in the words of Harvey Milk, you gotta give them hope. And Keith, you give us all hope. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to the Madam President, I should say, the Board of Supervisors, to our Chief, and to our awesome President, Tom O'Connor. I just have a few thank yous. I promise I'll be very brief. I can't be a black guy without thanking my mom. My mom is not here with me anymore, but she's here in my heart, and I wouldn't be here without her, my dad, and all the love and support. I also would like to thank the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club, especially Martha Knutson, Ron Flynn, Lou Fisher, Eric Lukoff, Brian Lubitz, and frankly, there are a lot more, but time is of the essence. I would also like to thank Firefighters Local 798, and specifically the formation of the United Employees Group under the leadership of our current president, Tom O'Connor, and our immediate past president, John Hanley, who got me into all this in the first place. I would also like to thank Supervisor Sheehy. Thank you for the nomination. Thank you for nominating SF Rescue for this special award, and also special recognition to our Madam President, Supervisor Breed, Supervisor Cohen, and Supervisor Farrell for supporting not only me, but as a member of this department, but in my local endeavors as a member of the Central Committee. I would also like to thank my very close friends, Eric, Larry, Andrew, Jackie, Mawuli, Leah. You guys have been awesome support. I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do this without support. I'm not here alone. I stand with folks at me like this, propping me up, and I appreciate it. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Battalion Chief Jaradovac. You've been an enormous friend, and you have supported me through all of this, through the good times and the bad. I would also like to thank the other members of our executive committee, Danny McAtee, Rob Bond, Lynette Thompson. Again, without you, I wouldn't be able to do the work that must be done to make our department the best it can be. Thank you.
The chief with you, man.
Congratulations, Keith. Again, we're also very proud of you and grateful for your service to the city. And Supervisor Sheehy, if you want to take a photo with the larger group that's here, you can probably step outside the chamber and we will resume commendations. And Tom and others, if you would take a photo, a group photo outside, that'd be great. Anyone who's here to support Mr. Baraka, thank you all so much for being here. Hey, Commissioner. All right, with that, we will move forward with our commendations, and I will now like to acknowledge Supervisor Safai.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I'm honored today to follow that. That was pretty amazing. But I'm honored today to recognize another resident of District 11. Keith is we're a proud member of the Excelsior Lakeview area. But today we are recognizing our Director of Cultural Affairs, Tom DeCaney. Tom is currently, as I said, the Director of Cultural Affairs for the city and county. Many of you know and work with, and many here in the audience. He oversees San Francisco's Arts Commission, which is a city agency that champions the art, enlivens our neighborhoods, and shapes our cultural policy here in San Francisco. But a little bit about Tom and his background. Before being appointed the Director of Cultural Affairs by Mayor Ed Lee in 2012, Tom was an independent consultant and strategist in the field of arts and culture, youth development, and education. He served 9 years as the Executive Director of Performing Arts Workshop. Some of you probably have interacted with them in your district, an organization dedicated to helping marginalized young people develop critical thinking, creative expression, and essential learning skills through the arts. Tom also helped found the Paul Robinson and Diego Rivera Academy and Arts Middle School for youth in the juvenile justice system, managed the AIDS Memorial Quilts National Youth Education Program, and conducted research for the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy. Tom currently serves as on the Executive Committee of the United States Urban Arts Federation and on the program committee for the World Cities Cultural Forum. His prior board service includes 2 terms as board co-chair of Lyric, an LGBTQ youth community center in San Francisco's Castro neighborhood, 7 years of service as board secretary and treasurer for the California Alliance for Arts Education, secretary of the SFUSD Arts Education Master Plan Advisory Committee, host committee co-chair for the National Guild for Community Arts Education 2010 Annual Conference in San Francisco, steering committee chair for Making Art, Making Change, a conference dedicated to examining the relationship between arts and social change, and most recently served as the host committee co-chair for the 2017 Americans for the Arts Convention in San Francisco. We're very proud that Tom lives in the Excelsior with his partner Seth Goldstein. Both are outstanding individuals who represent the richness of our city's cultural tapestry in all of its colors. And I'd just like to add one thing. Within 1 week of being elected, Tom and I met during a Christmas holiday party that the mayor hosted, and he began immediately talking to me about opportunities to work with the arts and expanding the arts in our neighborhood. We subsequently did an arts walk. We met with Joe and Madonna and an arts organization, and we're very proud that they have been tentatively selected to occupy a space in our district. And we are aggressively looking at expanding arts and arts opportunities for artists in our district through our storefront campaign. So Tom is aggressive, he's smart, and he's all about the arts, and we're very, very honored to have him and honored him here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Safai and members of the board. It's such an honor to get to work with you to champion the arts in San Francisco. We live in one of the most amazing cities in the world, and we have one of the most amazing arts and culture communities in the world. And we got to just put that on display most recently by hosting the annual Americans for the Arts Convention, where we had over 1,200 national leaders in arts and culture spend over 4 days in our city exploring our neighborhoods throughout all of San Francisco. And we repeatedly heard time and time again how lucky we are to live in San Francisco. So I just need to acknowledge what an incredible constituency we get to work with. I'm honored to be a steward of the Cultural Equity Endowment, which is one of the first public entities to support LGBTQ artists and other historically underserved communities. Groups like the Queer Cultural Center and Radar Productions and Fresh Meat Productions, Queer Women of Color, Media Arts Project, and so many other incredible organizations. It's just such an honor. I also want to thank the staff of the Arts Commission, who I get to work with every day and who lift me up and help me learn as I continue to grow in this role. And to all of you and your aides and your wonderful support of the arts over the years. We've been able to do some really great things in the past 5 years, reopening the Bayview Opera House with an incredible new facility is one of the many highlights, as well as championing the Geneva Car Barn and Powerhouse, and the Community Arts Stabilization Trust is the new master tenant to that organization, and look forward to having a ribbon cutting soon in District 11. And I just have to also thank my partner, Seth Goldstein, who's here today, who puts up with the long hours and is very supportive in all that I do, and all the wonderful commissioners, some of who are here today as well, who I get to work with. So thank you so much. It's a great honor, and it's a great honor to be recognized today. So thank you.
Congratulations again, Tom, and thank you so much for your work in the arts community. All right, with that, we will turn it over to Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. I hope the whole fan club is coming over, but I would love to invite Jesus Barragan up to the microphone, please. I am so
excited today to honor the incredible contributions of Jesus Barragan, a longtime LGBTQ activist in San Francisco, the co-founder of the Latino-Latina Gay Alliance, and our beloved District 9 office manager. I have known Jesus for the past 5 years, although it feels so much longer because I love you so much, and have been consistently impressed with his work and his dedication to the community. As my office manager, Jesus, known fondly as Your Highness, helps make sure that our office runs as smoothly as possible. But more importantly, he treats every constituent, intern, visitor to the office, and staff member with respect, kindness, and patience, although he does have a whip that he takes out of his drawer at times when we get out of line. One of Jesus's favorite slogans in the office is, "It's not what you do, but how you go about doing it." Jesus leads by example. Whether it's answering phone calls, running errands, or mentoring our interns, his spirit of dedicated public service is reflected in everything that he does. And I want to tell you a little bit about Jesus's background because it's absolutely extraordinary. Returning from the Vietnam conflict as a disabled veteran, Jesus started his lifelong passion for social justice as an undergrad working for the United Farm Workers. Jesus came to San Francisco in 1975, and together with a group of other courageous Chicanos, co-founded the Gay Latino-Latina Alliance, one of the first organizations dedicated to advocating for the needs of the queer Latino community in San Francisco. The work of this group not only gave voice to a group of people often ignored by the larger queer liberation movement, but it helped pave the way for future organizations to continue to make their voices heard. In addition, Jesus was also an organizer for the early days of the Pride program. In 1993, Jesus, as an MFT, became the first Spanish-speaking supervisor of a unit serving Latinos at Children's Protective Services in San Francisco. He then worked as a social worker at Instituto Familiar de la Raza. Jesus continues to serve our community through numerous volunteer positions, all based in the Mission District. He's a board member of the Latinos for Affirmative Action Group, is actively involved with numerous SEIU chapters in their struggle to improve the lives of workers and their family. He works with Dolores Street Community Services to help underprivileged individuals receive the care they need, and is an active and loud member of the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club. On top of all of this, Jesus dedicates many hours, many days a week in our District 9 office. He manages all the details of the front office while also taking the time to buy birthday cakes and cards and presents for every single intern and staff member in our office. He brings us chocolate on particularly bad days and just gives us the love and care that truly, truly keeps us going. Jesus, I love you so much, and thank you for everything you do for me and for my office and for my constituents and for the larger social justice movement in your community every single day.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Supervisor Ronan. Before I go on, today is one of my nephew's birthdays, and he said you have to say happy birthday to him. So his name is Jerry Valles, so happy birthday, Jerry. Now, thank you very much. To put it in a nutshell, everything I do, everything I've done, is basically a quality of life issues. It's so simple. What can I do so that we all have a better quality of life? Like the supervisor said, I'm a disabled combat veteran, the Vietnam conflict in 1968. And often, I look out there and I say, this isn't why I put my life on the line for. No, I must do something. And that, I think that's what drives me, because I know we all of us, we have the capacity to get it together, because I know we can do better. I believe in humanity, and I will never stop believing in humanity. So it's very simple. It's about a quality of life issue. Whether it's employment, housing, decent wages, good benefits. I strongly believe in a woman's right to choose. The LGBTQ issues. The word queer back in my day was a no-no, so I still cringe, okay? Bear with me. So it's very simple. It's about a good quality of life for all of us. But I have to make a confession. When I heard that Supervisor Ronan wanted to find me worthy of giving me this honor, and I really want to emphasize that, find me worthy. I wondered why. What have I done that is so special? You know, I've been scratching my head throughout the whole weekend. Why? And listening to her, I got my answer. Because in listening to her comments, I thought back to my mother, who some 50 years ago told me that it's how I went about it. She emphasized courtesy and respect towards others, how I treated others. One time she even said, and you're going to run into people that you really don't like, but if you have the courage to look past it, get past it, you will find something, you will find a connection, and that's how you work together, and hopefully I've done that. This ain't about me, this is about all of us. Because for me, it's also an honor to be a part of Supervisor Ronan's office. It's a two-way street. You give respect, you get respect. You give courtesy, you get courtesy. And that's one thing I pass on to the training and the interns. If that was you, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be talked to? If that's what you give, you're going to be okay. So anyway, again, I want to say thank you, and Mama, this is also for you.
Congratulations again, Jesus, and thank you for all you do to support Supervisor Ronan and all of the folks here in San Francisco. All right, with that, next up, we have Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. Well, I want to change the pattern here and get somebody that's not from the City Hall family to honor, and that is one of my favorite persons in District 7, Rick Johnson. Come on up. Rick is the president of the Midtown Terrace Homeowner Association and a renowned neighborhood leader. Rick always carries a can-do attitude and spends countless hours to help advance pedestrian and neighborhood safety issues in District 7. He even serves as the vice chairman of the San Francisco Police Department Park Station Community Police Advisory Board. Last year, Rick was instrumental in helping District 7 through the participatory budgeting process, which allows community members to select the Vision Zero and neighborhood improvement projects they want funded. Rick served on our District 7 Neighborhood Council, which oversaw the administration and process of the 2017 participatory budgeting program, which will invest $550,000 into our community this year. The neighborhood council members were required to attend several meetings, and this is a Rick thing. Rick was so committed to these meetings that only after 2 weeks after his hip surgery, he showed up to an all-day meeting on a Saturday to ensure that the applicant proposals were fairly reviewed before making it onto the ballot. Rick and his husband, Will Finan, of 28 years, and their 2 golden retrievers have lived in the Midtown Terrace neighborhood on the western slope of Twin Peaks for 27 years. After many years of involvement with the Midtown Terrace Homeowners Association, he was elected for the past 4 years. I am so honored to know Rick. I got to know his character and strong sense of community when we worked to fix the zoning error in Midtown Terrace. I gave him a directive to collect signatures of all his neighbors to show collective support. I actually didn't think he was going to do it, but within a few months, he shows up and says, here are the signatures of 820 residents in the neighborhood, which makes up almost 100% of the neighborhood. And needless to say, I was impressed, and we successfully corrected the zoning error last year. Since then, Rick has continued to be engaged in a number of initiatives in District 7. Not only does he serve in the neighborhood council, I also appointed Rick to serve on the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee for his dedication in improving street safety citywide. Rick was born in LA and remains a strong and ardent fan of the Dodgers, the Lakers, and the Rams. Are you kidding me? But we won't hold that against you. Rick came out late at the age of 31, and during his first 10 years of his relationship with his current husband, Will, they both felt that they had to hide their sexual orientations at work since they worked at white-collar corporate positions. While Rick's position was based in San Francisco, the company was headquartered in Nashville, and obviously Nashville has a different attitude. So when the regional manager of Nashville heard rumors about him being gay, his position was suddenly eliminated, only to be reinstated 4 months later. Fortunately, Rick was able to find a position in the human resources for the headquarters of the Ross Dress for Less stores in the Bay Area. Rick and Will decided it was easier not to hide their relationship and participated in then Mayor Newsom's historic 2004 wedding ceremonies, even if though their marriage were ultimately annulled. They finally got legally married in the 25th anniversary of the day they met in the Castro. I am so happy for Rick and look forward to working with him on many issues in District 7. Rick, thank you for all of your service and for leading by example. You are truly exemplary. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, Supervisor. Madam President, members of the board, and especially Supervisor Yee, I would like to thank the Supervisor for this truly wonderful and unexpected honor. I'm humbled to accept this. I'm quite sure that there are many more deserving residents of District 7, but I gratefully acknowledge this. I recognize the many men and women who paved the way for me to live a proud and out life in San Francisco, and I hope that the younger generation recognizes the sacrifices made by my fellow generation of LGBTQ friends that have sacrificed to make it even easier for them. But let us not lose sight of the struggles many still experience in their schools, their employment, and most of all, their home lives. I do know that my parents above would be proud, as I was one of the lucky ones who never felt a twinge of issues at home when I came out. In fact, I heard those words, even from my 82-year-old grandmother, that I'm sure many here have heard when I told them, yeah, we always knew. So again, I would like to thank my husband, Will Finan, who had a work commitment and could not be here, Supervisor Yee, his wonderful staff, and members of the board. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Rick, and thank you for being here with us today. All right, folks, it's my turn, and I am so excited to honor these two women who I have known for many, many years, and I absolutely adore. If Melanie and Melora Green would please come to the front so that they can be honored by the Board of Supervisors today, that would be wonderful. Come on now, you guys could do better than that. Give them a round of applause. These ladies are magic. They're magic because they make magic happen. They bring so many people together. They do so much amazing work in our communities. And, you know, I'm just so honored to just be a part of your world. The time that we spend together, the things that we do together, the things that you have created for this city, oftentimes people don't even know that you've had a say in it. Now, how many of you have gone to see the exhibit, The Black Woman is God, at the SOMARTS? Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. You know, The Black Woman is God, the exhibit that you both created, just is so hard to explain, but it was one of the most incredible things I think I've ever seen in San Francisco. To see all those amazing women who basically were works of art walking around during the exhibit, Karen Sinefru and many of the people that you've worked with over the years to create something amazing that empowered African American women in this city and really had other non-African American women appreciating the history and the culture and what we embody as women was absolutely incredible. Originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where they definitely, we argue on a regular basis about barbecue, right? And needing a Memphis-style barbecue place in San Francisco. The Green sisters are the youngest of 10. They moved to San Francisco 17 years ago, and I'm so proud that they have been a part of District 5 ever since. They've had a real positive influence on the art scene and on the community in general. They really are revolutionary artists, using the work that they do and bringing people together to create an opportunity to shine a light on things oftentimes that most things that go unnoticed. They've worked with emerging artists of color throughout the Bay Area. They've been tireless advocates for the Pan-Africanism and LGBT rights. And in 2015, I remember this, during the Martin Luther King weekend, Melanie and Melora teamed up with the queer trans people of color to shut down the Castro and bring attention to the Black Lives Matter movement and the declining population of African Americans in San Francisco. It was truly amazing. The twins currently host a weekly radio show at KPOO called the Ibiza Lounge, where they talk about art, politics, LGBT issues, and world music. In addition to their advocacy, Melanie and Melora have served on vital organizations in the Bay Area arts community. They formed Infinite Sync, an events and production company with the goal of cultivating and connecting other artists in the Bay Area. I mean, they truly are conveners. They bring so many amazing people together. They've brought couples together who've gotten married. They've brought people together who collaborated and have made incredible things happen. Their work helps to bring people together, and it creates an amazing energy and inspiring and uplifting energy. And I've been fortunate to be the beneficiary of many of the amazing things that you've done. When I was the executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex, I had the pleasure to work with these women. And, you know, people talk a lot about the work that I did at that center, but the work that I did had a lot to do with these two women right here who made amazing things happen at the Cultural Center, amazing exhibits. They're curators, they're conveners, they're so many different things. And I'm just really proud of all that they've done. Also in the Fillmore, creating the Independent Artists Week and Bring Your Own Art, which brings artists together and showcases artists that traditionally don't get an opportunity to be showcased anywhere. That has been pretty amazing. They've worked with the San Francisco Black Film Festival, and they founded the art program is an ambassador youth program. They helped 49er tight end Vernon Davis launch his own painting career. They really, many people didn't know Vernon was an artist, and he was very shy about his work, and the work that you did with him helped him to really bring that out and be a lot more secure in his own work and his own experiences, and you helped to shine a light on that. They both have served as curators for the African American Art and Culture Complex, SOMARTS, OMI Gallery in Oakland, and from time to time, Melanie continues to help curate art exhibits in my office. Thank you, Melanie. I can go on and on about these two amazing women, but we are so fortunate to have their spirit, their vibrancy, their creativity, their love, their everything here in this amazing city. They have made magic happen. They have brought people together. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to just acknowledge and really honor you on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and let you know how much you are loved and you are appreciated by so many people whose lives you've changed through the work that you've done. Congratulations.
Madam Chair, Board, Board of Supervisors, and everyone here. You know, Melora and I, like you said, moved here from Memphis, Tennessee, and, you know, we appreciate the city of San Francisco for accepting us, for allowing us to come here and grow as curators and as artists and as connectors. So really it's an opportunity to thank the city for allowing us that space to do that and really see what we're made of. I think a lot of people have the opportunity to do that when they come to San Francisco, and a lot of times it's not even clear what it is. But this is a space where you really get to blossom, and so we've been able to do that here and give space for others to do the same. And so thank you for acknowledging us and the work that we've been doing, and we hope to keep doing that here. I'll just add one part of that, just thanking you, Supervisor Breed, for being just a dear friend, an advocate always. And Melanie mentioned how we moved here. This space, like many people's story, allowed us to come out and allowed us to do a lot of things that would be a first for us. And I will never forget you for coining me as a curator when I didn't even know what that was. And walking and living into your creation of saying you are a curator is one of the main reasons why we're able to do what we do. So you provided a space for us to succeed, a space for us to fail, and a space for us to learn. And so thank you so much to you and also the city of San Francisco for providing that space for us as well. Thank you.
And this is Melora.
And she's correct.
You guys
Open.
Okay, I gotta do that. All right, those my girls. So proud. All right, next up we have Supervisor Peskin.
Now, colleagues, the reason I am here this afternoon, and perhaps the reason all of you are here this afternoon, does anybody know that line? It is my privilege to honor a true San Francisco icon and a resident of District 3, a muse and mother to many, from the House of Moore, Ms. Juanita Moore. For those of you who do not already know Juanita, and those who don't are increasingly few, I may add, Juanita is one of the most well-known drag queens in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and beyond. A Bay Area native, Juanita never thought he would grow up to perform drag, but when those who are reluctant to a craft commit to it, they often become the best at it, and Juanita is the exemplification of just that. Juanita has performed for over 20 years in the Bay Area, has been featured in music videos and fashion shows, and has attracted a loyal, devout following and audiences far beyond the LGBT community of San Francisco. Since meeting his own drag mother, Glamour, in New York in the late 1980s, Juanita has become his muse, wearing over 3,000 of his unique pieces over the years, culminating in a showcase at, yes, the DeYoung Museum in 2016. But beyond the glamour, at the foundation of every party and tightly tucked under every big wig is a deep commitment to the community. Both in and out of drag, Moore has been committed to the LGBT community of San Francisco and to District 3, and thank you for those incredible murals. From actively supporting the community through the worst of the AIDS epidemic, working hospice and cooking meals for those in need, to her regular parties and art shows, Juanita's philanthropic work has taken off. Now, Juanita's annual Pride Party raises hundreds of thousands of dollars for nonprofit organizations that provide mental health services and counseling, tenant services, housing subsidies, and asylum to LGBTQ community at home and abroad. Just 2 weeks ago, Juanita and Glamour convened a packed crowd at Fort Mason, and 49 artists, one for each of the lives lost last year at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. The event raised money for the Q Foundation and the LGBT Asylum Project. And through it all, Juanita, one of drag's enduring superstars, maintains a fastidious private life. I will not say where I bump into Juanita in the private life, but it's along the Polk Street corridor, as well as a sense of humility that belies the grandeur of his lineage, firmly situated among San Francisco's greats, from the female impersonators at Finocchio's decades before they were called drag queens, to the absolute empress widow Norton Jose Saria. When she's not hosting the most fabled parties in town, Juanita's walking his French bulldog, Jackson, along Polk Street and Market Street, reflecting on the billowing rainbow flags overhead, or cooking for the fortunate few guests of Casa Juanita, which I'm hoping will have a brick and mortar in District 3 soon, and I mean that. Indeed, it is Juanita's lifelong commitment to giving back that has cemented her status among San Francisco's all-time great entertainers, philanthropists, and community pillars. Thank you, Juanita, for being a friend to me, supporting me in my time of need, and for being so much more than that to our great city. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Supervisor Aaron. We've been supporting District 3. I have anyway for almost 30 years now. That's how long I've lived in District 3. But I could go back further than that, from when I came out as a teenager at 16, and Polk Street was queer. And after all these years that I've been there, to watch the queer diminish, I was really excited to put something queer back on Polk Street, which was the mural of Jackson and I, done by Serge Gay. I love this city. I love the people in it. I've created a wonderful family, and I love supporting everything that happens here. I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you all.
One more for me. One more for me.
All right, congratulations, Juanita, and thank you so much for being here today. You can tell when a star is in the room. Thank you. All right, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if my honoree's family is here yet, but we will start first.
Do you want me to go to another person to give time?
Would you? I will ask my honoree. It's okay? Okay. Well, we can watch it on rerun, right? So.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. I am so thrilled today to recognize Pastor Megan Rohr during Pride Week for their incredible contributions to our community and to the entire city of San Francisco. Pastor Megan will be joined later by wife Laurel and their adorable children, Michaela and Dominic. So Pastor Megan is a nationally recognized leader on issues of homelessness, gender, sexuality, and faith, and in 2006 became the first transgender Lutheran pastor ordained in the United States. We in the Outer Sunset feel fortunate to say that Pastor Megan lives and spends much of their time in the Sunset District as pastor of Grace Lutheran Church. Pastor Megan breaks the mold of a traditional faith leader and takes challenges head-on to directly improve the lives of people throughout their communities with incredible compassion, kindness, and a great sense of humor. For example, as the executive director of The Welcome, which seeks to provide a faithful response to poverty and quality of life, Pastor Megan has helped over 150 homeless individuals with the ability to find permanent housing and enabled 6 church-owned properties in the Bay Area to become community gardens. I think Laurel and her children are here. Yay, welcome. Please come on up. SF Cares is a coalition of Lutheran groups of which Pastor Megan is a founding member. And through Project Homeless Connect and SF Cares, they have distributed over 2,000 pairs of prescription eyeglasses to homeless individuals. This year, SF Cares is sponsoring all of the glasses given away by Project Homeless Connect in 2017. Earlier this year, Pastor Megan became the first transgender police chaplain for the San Francisco Police Department and will provide support to many of our police officers. As a chaplain, they are also working with SFPD's Behavioral Services Unit to create a community chaplaincy that will provide emergency support to victims. Additionally, the Community Chaplaincy Project will work together with marginalized communities and areas that have a history of tension with the San Francisco Police Department to provide trainings and support for SFPD's community policing efforts. The Community Chaplaincy Project includes partnerships with SF Suicide Prevention, the SF Interfaith Council, U.S. Crisis Care, and the SF Night Ministry, and others. And the project's first response was to the recent shootings at the UPS facility. Personally, I have witnessed Pastor Megan's impact over the past several years since coming on as a pastor at Grace Lutheran Church. Always ready and willing to get involved with our efforts to improve the community, Pastor Megan transformed the formerly underutilized front yard at Grace Lutheran Church into a beautifully landscaped labyrinth for the parish, organized the parish to do plantings along Sunset Boulevard Greenway, and has become involved in our efforts to create a disaster plan for the Outer Sunset and serving as a member of our Resilient Sunset Plan, just to name a few. The doors of the parish are always open to our community to host public meetings or even jam-making workshops, which Pastor Megan and Laurel attended enthusiastically. And just when you thought that Pastor Megan had done everything and has given so much, we watched as their family recently welcomed their 2 foster-to-adopt children into their home with open hearts. And I can't wait to see them grow up. So thank you so much, Pastor Megan, and thank you, Laurel, for all of your support. I'm just so honored to be able to honor you and recognize you for everything you've done in our community.
We'll see if this works or not. This year, the Lutheran Church is celebrating its 500th anniversary of the Reformation, and Martin Luther nailed on the church doors a letter and urging people to behave better and to require money for less and to hold the faith of the world maybe a little less in the hands of the 1%. And as a Lutheran pastor, I uphold that not always by nailing notes on doors, but certainly by living out Luther's quote, "Sin boldly and believe more boldly still. Somehow, just being in my body became a political act. And along the way, I encouraged other people to live in their bodies a little bit more. And if that's the best thing that I could do, then it's certainly worth it. The most heartbreaking thing that happens in my ministry is the countless people who on Facebook message me and say that they exist because someone like me exists. To be a person of faith, to be trans, to be embodied, and to love people for who they are and whomever they'll become is a special gift in this world. And so if you are blessed with the privilege to ponder, as I am, I hope that you will pass that on to others, that you will use the safety that you have to help those who are more vulnerable. And as someone who has been in the family crisis rooms of both the Ghost Ship and the recent UPS shootings, I want to remind those who are able to use some of their healthy baggage from living through trauma and heartbreak and the difficult things in this world to care for others as they begin their journeys. We truly are a rugged queer community, and some of the gifts that we have is learning how to persevere, how to resist with fabulousness, and how to embody love and kindness in a time that embodying love and kindness might kill you. And so my hope is if even one person decides to love boldly and forgive more boldly still, that all of our work is worth it. And thank you all for what you do, because I'm only able to get a lot done because I don't have to move with a second. Thank you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then a picture with you. Okay.
She's not very good at the don't be in social networking philosophy. Oh, how about like this?
Okay, oh, perfect. 1, 2, 3. Big smiles. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations, Pastor Rohr. All right, folks, our final commendation for the afternoon will be given by Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Happy Pride. It's a pleasure to be here and to stand before you to proclaim and to recognize a fantastic woman. Today I'm going to be honoring a woman who is dear to all of us, and that's the clerk of the board, Ms. Angela Calvillo.
Woo!
Surprise, surprise! Surprise!
Surprise, surprise.
Now, many of you know, Angela is a model of grace and a source of wisdom for each member of the Board of Supervisors. Ms. Calvillo has been working as their clerk since 2007 and has also worked for a considerable length of time for Supervisor Tom Amiano for 10 years prior, serving as his legislative aide. And as the clerk, she has the towering responsibility to oversee the entire department, which includes managing the Board of Supervisors, the budget, the Board of Supervisors budget, upholding Public Records Act and the Brown Act, and for maintaining and tracking all of the local legislation that you see that transpires right here in this chamber on a weekly basis. Thank you, Angela. I know you are a leader of a team, but you are the leader. Thank you. today because we're rising to honor Pride Month, but I also want to mention that Angela is the first LGBTQ person to hold this position, and that deserves recognition. And many of you know about her karaoke rendition of Total Eclipse of the Heart that she performed together with her lovely partner Elaine Forbes, who is the acting executive director of our SF Port. It's legendary. That performance is legendary in the halls, and not a board meeting goes by that my staff doesn't comment on your sultry speaking voice. And oftentimes you don't want that sultry speaking voice to whisper in your ear, quoting
the board.
Exactly. Quoting board rules. Supervisor pursuant subsection blah 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 blah. You can't do that. I just want to say thank you. You have been an incredible leader. You are an incredible guide. You're very respectful and considerate to everyone at every turn. And you take good care of everyone on the Board of Supervisors as well as members of the public. Oftentimes she sat here and listened public comment and has made a note to connect public commenters to much needed city services. And I also want to recognize your staff. You have a tremendous staff and many leaders that you are educating and training to serve as faithful public servants. And we want to say thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in honoring our very own Clerk of the Board, Ms. Angela Calvillo. Angela, we love you. We love you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you.
One last thing. I just want to thank everyone that kept this a secret. It is incredibly difficult to pull something like this off without Angela knowing about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen, through the President. I'll make my comments very brief. When I was growing up, I grew up in a town that was not very friendly, and certainly to people of color in general, but certainly to, I would say, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning adults, and certainly not youth. But I think that when I thought of San Francisco, I always thought of a place where the citizenry and the leaders of the city were very equalizing. And I know that Supervisor Milk indicates hope, but I would say that this city gave me the courage when I was a youth to believe in who I was. My mother and my family, my brothers and sisters, they all actually, they love Elaine Forbes, my partner of 17 years. But it is because that this body has made it okay to be either lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning. And I'm grateful for this recognition, although there are many people who are more deserving with more colorful and important profiles. I do accept this recognition because it would be wonderful to be a part of that tool that somebody somewhere in a small town could find the courage that I found how many years ago through this recognition. So thank you. And thank you, Supervisor Sheehy, for your ongoing work in the gay community and for this recognition to the entire board and to the members of my staff who I could not be here without. I do appreciate how you all fight for the public's right to know on a daily basis. So thank you all.
And with that, congratulations to all the honorees. You know, I heard some of them say there are others, including Angela, who said that there are people that are more deserving, and I will just say, not today. Not today, because you are the ones who deserve these honors. You are the ones who have done tremendous work for the LGBTQ community and will continue to be fighters and examples to generations to come. So we want to thank you. We want to honor you and appreciate you for all the work that you've done on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. Thank you and congratulations.
We also want to say happy early birthday. Her birthday is on Monday.
Thank you kindly.
Yes, happy early birthday. And thank you again, Angela. Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, I just wanted to note, I think there's going to be a group picture, the Bay Area Reporter, of all the honorees. I don't know if my colleagues, and I think we
So, of course, we need to excuse Ms. Calvillo to go outside. Don't worry, she has her staff who will basically jump right in because they're prepared to do so. And we will go back to business on the board. So, again, congratulations to you all. Miss Angela, enjoy your photo. All right, folks, we will resume our meeting, and thank you everyone for your patience. And with that, we will go back to roll call for introductions, beginning with Supervisor Cohen.
Oh, yes, roll call for introductions. Roll call for introductions. Well, colleagues, it's hard to transition from such a joyous occasion to something very serious and somber. I'd like to offer for your consideration that we close the board meeting out in memory of those who lost their lives last week at UPS. I want to close the meeting out recognizing and acknowledging the tragic shooting that occurred at UPS in Potrero Hill on June 14th, which ended in the death of 4 souls. We mourn the loss of life of every victim of violence in our city. It's sad, but it's become customary right here in this chamber. We're deeply saddened to lose Mr. Wayne Chan, Mr. Benson Louis, and Mr. Michael Lafetti, who were active and much-loved members of the community around San Francisco. Mr. Wayne Chan was 56 years old from San Francisco. He worked for UPS for 28 years and spent at least half of that time in the Coal Valley, in the Coal Valley hate route. Mr. Benson Liu, who was 50 at the time of his passing, was also from San Francisco. He was a devoted son, a husband, a proud father, a selfless friend, and a dedicated volleyball player, volleyball coach, and mentor. He was also a hardworking UPS driver for 17 years. Michael Lafetti, also known as Big Mike, was 46 years old. He was from Hercules, California. He was a husband, a father, and a father figure to many. He was a beloved son, a brother, an uncle to all, a cousin, and a friend to every person he met. I'd like to recognize their work. I'd like to uplift their service and their sacrifice of these 3 men. With colleagues, I'd like to make a motion that we close out the board meeting in honor of their memory and their service. The rest I submit. Thank you.
Thank you. And colleagues, can we do that on behalf of the entire board without objection? Without objection, we will adjourn today's meeting on behalf of the entire board. And I know that there are other members of the board who'd like to say something, and I, on behalf of one of the drivers who served my district, I want to just acknowledge Wayne Chan, a longtime UPS driver for the Haight-Ashbury and Coal Valley neighborhoods, who was one of the persons that we lost last week. We know he was 56 years old, a 28-year veteran and father, 28-year veteran of UPS and father of 2. He had been a neighborhood fixture for more than a decade in the Haight-Ashbury, Coal Valley neighborhoods. Merchants, residents, they've exchanged so many stories. There is outpouring of love for him, both on social media and in passing when I've been in those neighborhoods. So many different stories. And one story, one of the comments I just wanted to acknowledge came from Camden Avery, who's a store manager at the Booksmith. She actually told the Chronicle that she had seen him every day for 8 years, and he was really a sweet guy, super friendly, happy to do his job. Just a natural part of the community. He chit-chatted with everyone. He knew folks. He knew members of the staff by name. He was just really a thoughtful guy with a kind presence. He was one of those persons that made the community better. It just wasn't his job to do that, but he definitely went out of his way, and it was a natural part of who he was, which made him so special to the folks in Coal Valley and the Haight-Ashbury community. He left a lasting impression, and he will truly be missed. And with that, I'd like to call on Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. Thank you to Supervisor Cohen for bringing up this in memoriam. And I'll just speak on behalf of Benson Louie, whose delivery route was in the Sunset District. Just to share a story, he definitely serviced my parents' home in the Sunset. Many years ago, when my grandmother was undergoing kidney dialysis at home, she required delivery of many, many, many different boxes of equipment and supplies on a regular basis. And Benson would give out his phone number and get the phone number of my parents so that they would be able to receive the deliveries even if Benson missed my parents at home. He just knew how difficult it would be if they were to miss that delivery of the kidney dialysis supplies. And I've read so many similar stories of where Benson would just go out of his way to make sure that people receive their packages. And I truly believe that no matter what role you are in, as long as you are providing great community service to someone, you're bending over backwards to do something for someone else without expecting anything in return, it's a really beautiful thing, and Benson really embodied that. I'm very sad that he left behind his family and his children. I know that all three victims have fundraising websites, which we will post as well, so that you can donate to all of their funds in order to provide for their memorial services. But I just want to also lastly say that if we know anybody in our lives, whether it's friends or family, who may be down, who may be suffering from issues, that I hope we can all reach out so that we can prevent situations like this from happening, which has really been so tragic. But I send my heartfelt condolences to all of the family members who have been impacted by this incident.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. And I want to thank Supervisor Cohen also for bringing this to our attention today. I want to send my condolences to not only to the friends and relatives of the victims, but also to all of the people that work at UPS. I didn't know these three individuals, but working at UPS for 2 years in my younger days when I was able to lift up a box, one thing I learned there is that people that work there are very close. And that it's a real strong, brotherhood, sisterhood that's within the network. And even though I've worked there only for 2 years, but like decades ago, I still have that sort of brotherhood for people that work there, and so it's really sad.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm really happy that Supervisor Cohen was able to do this in memoriam today. I had the great honor of working for 6 years with the Teamsters. I worked specifically with this particular local. We worked with them on prevailing wage. These are some of the hardest working and most underappreciated people in the city. And this is a tragedy for this union. This union has been shocked and rocked by a few murders. Week prior to that, there was a young man, one of the young UPS drivers, that was murdered in our neighborhood at a local bar. So this is a tragedy after a tragedy. So our hearts goes out to the families and the membership and all the people that are left without loved ones. But yeah. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before we go back to roll call for introductions, I just want to let members of the public know in honor of the lives lost last week at the UPS shooting. We are adjourning the meeting today on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors in their honor. And thank you, everyone, for your outpouring of support and your amazing stories. And thank you, Supervisor Tang, for letting us know about the GoFundMe pages and other information where members of the public can make a contribution. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we will go to Supervisor Fuhrer at this time.
Thank you very much. Today, I would like to begin my introductions with an in memoriam for my friend, Paul Rosenberg. Paul Rosenberg was born on May 14, 1945, in San Francisco and passed away on June 18, 2017. Paul was a graduate of our public schools, Lafayette Elementary School, Presidio Middle School, Lowell High School, and the University of California at Berkeley. Paul loved San Francisco and was involved in many aspects of city life. For 33 years, he worked for the City and County of San Francisco at the Department of Social Services. He made sure clients never missed their checks and that the computer system was up to date with the many federal and state regulatory changes. He was honored to lead the state's pilot program for food stamp recipients to get their benefits through electronic benefit cards instead of paper. Paul was an avid San Francisco historian with specialties in the Office of the Mayor and Board of Supervisors. Not only could he name every single member of the board since 1850, along with the years that they served, he could also tell you stories about many of them. He shared with me many of these stories, and I should warn my colleagues, he had an exceptional memory. He was a longtime volunteer for Democratic causes and candidates. He volunteered for Philip Burton. He ran the Richmond District Campaign Office for George Moscone for mayor, and he volunteered on Nancy Pelosi's first campaign for Congress. He was also an expert in the history of San Francisco public transit, often recalling the fact that the Richmond once had streetcars on tracks. Paul spent many years as Secretary-Treasurer of PAR, the Planning Association for the Richmond. He was an early member of the Irish-Israeli-Italian Society. He was a co-founder of the Market Street Railway, where he served as president. He was a founding member of the San Francisco History Association. When he retired, he followed in his father's footsteps and joined 60+ at San Francisco State University, where he served as a treasurer. He was also active in the Sons of Retirement, serving on the board, including serving as the Big Sur. He was a member of the Western Neighborhoods Project, Native Sons of the Golden West, the Westerners, the San Francisco Civil War Roundtable, retired employees of the City and County of San Francisco, and other groups. As you can see, Paul was just as involved and active in retirement as he was when he was working for the city. We have lost a good man, a real mensch, who had many friends from all over the city and beyond. He and his high school friends got together regularly. Paul Rosenberg is survived by his wife of 32 years, Sherry, and their son Coleman, who is 27 years old. Paul was many things: a husband, a father, a historian, a volunteer, a master storyteller, and so much more. But to describe him in just two qualities, he was a true friend and a true San Franciscan. I am honored he was a Richmond resident and proud of his roots in the Richmond. For those who would like to attend, his funeral will take place at Beth Israel Judea on Sunday, June 25th at noon, followed by food and conversation. There will also be sitting Shiva, taking visitors with a brief service on Monday and Tuesday from 6 to 9, with a service at 7. This is also at the temple. In lieu of flowers, if you would like, you may make a donation in his memory to the charity of your choice or the Lowell High School Alumni Association. Paul will be greatly missed by many. I have other items to introduce today. Today, colleagues.
Madam President, if I could just interrupt, I also would like to be added to the in memoriam for Mr. Rosenberg, and actually turned in an in memoriam request as well. So if I could just be added to Supervisor Fuhrer's, and I just want to concur in her comments, and he will be sorely missed, and our regrets to his widow, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Today, colleagues, I, along with my co-sponsors, Supervisors Peskin and Yee, introduce a resolution that I hope will have unanimous support from the board. On April 28, 2017, the 45th President of the United States signed an executive order entitled America First offshore energy strategy that poses a threat to the California coastline. The Trump administration, through this executive order, directed a review of the national marine sanctuaries with the apparent goal of opening these waters to offshore oil exploration and drilling. The resolution I am introducing is a resolution supporting the protection of designated national marine sanctuaries along the California coast against the threat of offshore oil exploration and drilling. The San Francisco is bordered by the Monterey Bay, Greater Farallones, and Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuaries, a designation that for each protects its waters from pollution, offshore oil drilling, and allows for a productive and vibrant coastline. The Trump administration seeks to maximize profit for industries like oil at the expense of our precious natural world, but we will not allow it. By passing this resolution and communicating that we will unequivocally protect our national marine sanctuaries, we will join other counties, including Marin, Mendocino, and Sonoma, in taking a strong stand in this issue. Thank you to Oliver York, an advisory board member for the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, and I vote 16 advocate. I hope for reaching out to my office about this issue. Colleagues, I hope we can stand today in unity to protect our beautiful coastline. Second, I am reintroducing the Memorandum of Understanding for LAFCO to continue working with the PUC to advance important work of community choice, aggregation, and clean power SF. As chair of LAFCO, I have heard from the PUC that they are committed to continuing the work with LAFCO, and we will be meeting shortly to develop a work plan to guide our work together. Clean Power SF is a critical program that brings cleaner and more renewable energy to San Francisco residents, but is still being phased in neighborhoods across the city. We want this program to grow and enroll thousands of residents citywide, and this MOU will allow LAFCO to continue to support the implementation of that work. Lastly, colleagues, today I introduced a hearing on employment and workforce development in San Francisco's technology sector. There has been much attention on the impact of tech companies in San Francisco and our existing residents, especially as tensions have arisen around transportation, taxes, or workforce housing. But the truth is, jobs in San Francisco's information industry have doubled in the last 10 years, according to the Comptroller's Office, and I am very interested in better understanding how longtime San Francisco residents and residents of color are gaining access to these positions. Tech SF is one of our 4 sector-based workforce programs within the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, seeking to train and place San Francisco residents in the burgeoning technology sector in San Francisco. OEWD's Tech SF program aims to build a pipeline to many of these well-paying technology jobs, and I hope this hearing can illuminate the program's impact thus far, including who among San Francisco residents have benefited, any challenges faced by the program we can improve upon, and how we might grow these efforts to provide more pathways to sustain our work for our communities. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's see, I am introducing a substitute to Supervisor Kim and my owner move in legislation, which will be heard together with Supervisor Farrell's legislation in the Land Use Committee this coming Monday, the 26th, and I just wanted to be abundantly clear about that so there's no misunderstandings. And then I would like to adjourn the board meeting in the memory of Gerson Baker, who played all sorts of incredible roles in San Francisco, including a seminal role in getting the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, SF MoMA, to its current location on 3rd Street, and also was very important in the movement to locate UCSF at Mission Bay, and was a really humble guy who was the developer who did the Levi Strauss buildings down on Sansamon Battery, which was a pretty cutting-edge development of its time, and was raised as a chicken farmer. His folks came from Eastern Europe, and he was raised as a chicken farmer in Petaluma and passed away at the age of 89. And my and our regrets to his widow, Barbara, and the rest I will submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Ronan.
Submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today I have an introduction to call for a hearing. Many of you might have read about the closing of certain aspects of services provided at St. Luke's Hospital. This is something that the community, along with organized labor, have been deeply involved in organizing around for over the last 10 to 15 years. I'm doing this in conjunction, calling for a hearing with Supervisor Ronan. This is a lifeline to the Excelsior Outer Mission District 11, as well as the mission, and also in many aspects a lot of residents from Bayview Hunters Point. And the thing that we learned over the weekend in conversations with the CNA, their nursing unit, as well as some of the other organized bargaining units, is that the subacute nursing beds, these are some of the only ones provided in San Francisco. And some of the things that we have heard coming out is that there's no plan for the people that are currently receiving these services, and they're talking about reaching out to places as far away as Los Angeles County to send these people that are at the end of their life. And that to me is absolutely inhumane, to be talking about separating people that in the last year, maybe in the last years or months of their life, and sending them out of county and separating them from their family. So we're calling for a hearing. We're going to have that hopefully as soon as possible, and we're going to bring all the interested parties together and talk about how we can make this transition as smooth as possible, and if some of the things that are on the table are actually necessary that they're promoting. I mean, they haven't even finished their new hospital on Cathedral Hill, and they're already talking about taking away aspects of the current hospital in St. Luke's. So we will hopefully have that hearing very quickly. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, today I'm introducing legislation to help us better track departments' overtime expenditures. It has been a known challenge that certain departments rely on overtime in order to meet service needs. While it is understandable under certain circumstances, the Board of Supervisors does not have a real choice when the departments come before us for authorization, since much of this overtime had already been expended. After several conversations at the Board Budget and Finance Committee about this issue, I felt it would be prudent for us to be proactive in monitoring these expenditures before spending supplementals even come before us. The ordinance I am introducing today would require the controller to include a mid-year financial report to the Board of Supervisors and the mayor, information gathering regarding overtime expenditures of the airport department, of emergency management, fire department, the police department, the Department of Public Health, Public Utilities Commission, the Department of Public Works, Recreation and Park Department, and the Sheriff's Department. This week we will be making some difficult decisions about the city's budget, and it is imperative that we have some real discussions about the ballooning budget, especially around overtime spending. I hope that this early notification tool will help us with flagging departments that are spending down their overtime budgets too quickly in future fiscal years, so that we can prevent having to expend funds unnecessarily. I also want to say that I'm a happy co-sponsor of the resolution that Supervisor Fuhrer introduced, developed by Oliver York. I'd just like to say one thing about Oliver York, who's this remarkable high school student, that this isn't the first time he's brought things to our board. The last item that most of us supported was vote 16, and it was his and a few others' brainchild. So I have a feeling we're going to see that name a lot in the future. I also, lastly, I'd like to present in memoriam in honor of Dr. Alfred Lee, a generous, hearted optometrist and community leader who practiced in Chinatown for over 60 years. On Saturday, I found out very late, but on May 6th, Dr. Lee passed away peacefully at the age of 95 years. Alfred was a native third-generation San Franciscan born to Luk Kao Lee and Chow Chan Lee. A pivotal point in his life happened when he was turned away from the Central Y MCA and referred to the Chinatown Y. The Chinatown Y was there to develop his love for playing basketball and established many lifelong friendships. He was part of the first graduating class of Marina Junior High and an alumnus of Lowell High School. When he was drafted into World War II, he served as a pharmacist in Texas. He later attended the Illinois College of Optometry on a GI Bill and then returned to open his practice in Chinatown on Sacramento Street, where he worked 6 days a week for 65 years. It's kind of interesting because he was my optometrist when he was a kid. Him and I think it was Calvin Louis, there were only 2 optometrists in Chinatown, and just about every Chinese American kid would go to one or both of those optometrists. So he was just one of them, and so I've known him for many, many years. Many youth who couldn't afford it. I mean, it's a remarkable youth that couldn't afford his services have returned to his clinic because he's helped them out even when they had no money. They would return as adults to express their respect and thanks. So everyone in Chinatown knew him and would stop to say hello to him in the sidewalk and ask him about his vision problems. His business was so successful, sometimes there were even 10 people lined up outside of the door on Saturday mornings. I remember, oh boy, I'm going to be able to get my glasses, and then I'm waiting 2 hours to get inside. So eventually, Dr. Lee handed over the business to his son, Michael, who runs the clinic. But Dr. Lee, though retired for the last 10 years, still opened the office every morning. Dr. Lee was an active Chinatown community member and part of the Chinatown Y, Chinese Sportsman Club, the Chinatown Lions Club, and other organization. I remember him very fondly, not because of him being my optometrist, but because he sponsored many of the basketball teams that I was playing in Chinatown, and in which he was one of the few Chinese Americans that sponsored anything at the Chinese Rec Center at the time. So many of us who played any basketball, whether you were in Chinatown or outside of Chinatown, for those that came into Chinatown, that they remember him as being very generous and I guess we cemented our relationship when we took a few championships on the team that he sponsored. So in his personal life, Dr. Lee married Evelyn in 1953, and together they raised 3 sons. He is survived by his sons, Michael, Eric, Rodney, and grandchildren, Erica, Gregory, Sammy, and Kara. Donations can be made in his memory to the Chinatown YMCA. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. And Madam President, you asked to be re-referred.
Yes, thank you. Madam Clerk, I have an in memoriam today for Ed Nevin Jr., who passed away peacefully in his home yesterday at the age of 102. Mr. Nevin, the son of 7 children, the 7th son of 7 children, was born in 1914 in San Francisco to Irish immigrant parents who lived at 15th and Harrison Streets. He attended St. Joseph Elementary School, Sacred Heart High School, and graduated from St. Mary's College in 1937. He served the San Francisco Police Department with distinction during his 34-year career, which began as an officer at the Richmond Station, followed by posts as the Chief of Chinatown Detail, Director of Special Services, Commander of the San Francisco Housing Authority Police, and finally the Chief of the SF International Airport Police Unit until he retired in 1976. He was married to his wife, Mazee McDermott Nevin, for over 70 years, and they actually had seven children. He had 47 great-grandchildren, and I'm sure probably more grandchildren than that. This is the information that I just received, and I just didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to honor and recognize a great San Franciscan, a native San Franciscan, and adjourn this meeting in his honor here today. Thank you very much, colleagues, and the rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. And Madam President, that concludes the introduction of new business.
All right. Can you please read public comment?
At this time, the public may now address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include the May 9th, 2017 Board meeting minutes and the May 11th, 2017 special meeting minutes at the Budget and Finance Committee, which constituted a quorum of the Board, and items 25 through 27, the without reference to committee items. Pursuant to the Board's rules, please direct your remarks to the Board as a whole and not to individual members of the audience or members of the Board. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify, and if you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you would like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
First speaker, please.
الإخوة الأفاضل أعضاء مجلس مدينة سان فرانسيسكو، اسمي عبد الله مجاهد وأنا هنا اليوم لأهنئ الإخوة العرب المسلمين بشهر رمضان الكريم، أعاده الله علينا وعليكم باليمن والبركات. وأنا أحب أن أهنئ أيضا 5 من الأعضاء بتوفيقهم من انعقاد المجلس أمس الخاص ببادجت جاستس، والاجتماع ده استمر من الساعة 10 صباحا حتى انتهى الساعة 3 ظهرا، وأنا أشكر الجميع أبناء المدينة كبيرا وصغيرا عن آرائهم البناءة التي أوجدوها أمس. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, my name is Abdullah Mujahid. I am here in that building since Dayan Palestine used to be the mayor of our city. Long time I see what you don't see it. In my hand, I have example, that little balloons. None of you can make it that big more than you see it. Why? Because I know the balloon have hole, never coming big. And that we did, and that we always do it. Why? Because you hearing for me and the other people like me, if they are community activists or homeless advocates. We need shelter for the homeless who sleep in the street. We're building the shelter. But the wrong, you make it. And generation after generation, same wrong. You know why? Because I have big list. Manager and the worker in the shelter, they steal the food by boxes. I donated with other people turkey to feed the homeless. In Thanksgiving, the assistant manager of MC South, she still have the turkey for her family. The manager of Mason Rock allowed the people work under his command to cut the material from the bed, and he take the bed to sell it and take it $800. I make it picture. I give the picture to the media. Many of them go to jail. It is your action now. If you want to make it something else for the homeless, you must also watch the people you're hiring them to work for them. That is my opinion. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Next
Angela,
speaker.
I would like to tell you congratulations and I love
Thank you, Adela. Your time is up, but thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Andrew Yip. Of social problems in seeking for solutions, that would be missionary works of promoting true principle of outright studies for the worthy people, of inner sage with sitting contemplation in cultivation of virtues and works, will be one's bright self-nature, which would be matters pertaining to the gratification of selfish desires, achieving of good conscience, sincerity of thoughts, and uprightness of one's heart, of external king with holy mercy in missionary pathways of practice of works, will be one's management of the people, which would be matters pertaining to personal cultivation, putting family in good order, management of the nation, and making peace of wellness for the world. This inner sage and external king for the great doorway of cultivation and mission in true principle, would finally achieving an ideal state of excellency without imperfections. With application of such heavenly principle, worthy rescue for our people can come to a great success, and the root problems of social failure can be resolved. The cultivation of true self-nature, of true destiny at works, and uprightness of thoughts would be the mission, goals, and objective of uprightness in pathways for the worthy people, leading to a blissful life of great success. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, good evening. I come here today to speak to y'all. You know, America seems to forget June the 19th has something to do with slavery in this country. And I'm asking for fairness from the Board of Supervisors. If the June the 19th celebration for black people has been reduced to one day, then reduce the Asian celebration to one day. Reduce the Japanese flower thing for one day. Why is it always when they want to do something, they do it to black people like most people want to forget what it's all about. It's about slavery. You can't be ashamed of it. This is the worst country on the planet Earth. I've been having slaves in this country for the last 400-500 years. But, you know, I'm a disabled American veteran. But I'm saying to all of you, it is not fair to us for you to reduce the celebration of Juneteenth, which is directly related to slavery in this country, to one day. But if you want to reduce it, then reduce everybody's to one day. That's only fair. That's why I'm here today.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And I miss seeing you at the booth this year. Next speaker, please.
What did you say?
I said I miss seeing you at Yolanda's booth this year. I walked past.
I was there.
Next speaker, please.
I want to say congratulations to everybody for their hard work to move the fulcrum forward on LGBT rights in the workplace, in our nation, in our courtrooms throughout the world. But I have very sad news to report. This has been a devastating year for LGBT people throughout the world. With the concentration camps in Chechnya, we've counted 6 of them. With the Kill the Gay bills that are getting revived throughout the world, to this benign homophobia that I would like to address. In this chamber, if you Google Katie Tang and anti-LGBT, you will come up with the articles that I quoted from 2 weeks ago that said that this supervisor dances with, meets in her office, it's on record, communicates with through email, through this hate group, the Pacific Justice Institute. and I personally am offended by it. I don't care if our gay supervisor covers for homophobia. We've had homophobes in this room before, if you look back at history. And that guy happened to kill another supervisor because of homophobia. So don't laugh underneath what I'm speaking, these words. Homophobia is deadly. It's real. We lost 25% of our lesbian population in just the last 7 years in San Francisco, according to the BAR. So ask yourself, why does this person who's been outed as a homophobe by the Bay Area Reporter and the San Francisco Examiner not denounce this hate group, Pacific Justice Institute? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Tom Gilberti caught a half hour of Nancy Pelosi on Forum today. Half hour's better than nothing, but I still consider that a crumb. Best thing, she came up with new jobs and new prosperity, and she seemed like she really wanted to run away. Forum is a great voice, and I think hers is missing. She came up with, I caught her a couple of months ago at Delancey Street, and she came up with the idea of all the people in the blue states call the people in the red states to vote the blue line. I think that's kind of lame. For 8 years, we've heard about the suppression of votes, and nary a squeak out of Washington. We've heard about ALEX, the American Legislative Exchange, and there's no answer to it. There's just silence. We just let it happen. Part of this is Obama's problem. His voice, he had the bullpup, and he didn't respond. He fanned on the banking reform, and in the health care reform, he said, we're going to do it. In the next breath, he said, but we're not, everything's on the table, but not single payer. The Democrats, we need a reform, just like we have here in the city. We need a bigger reform. We don't want to just adjust the percentages. We want to change the formula. We need to start squawking. Our cities need to start squawking. Helping our community stay healthy, helping children be born, elders pass away here. Residential reforms, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. I'll make it real simple, and that is I would like to ask the supervisors to make sure that the library is not having any element of its budget or any other source of money intended to be used for the implementation of privacy-threatening RFID. That's radio frequency identification tags that they would put into books. Now, what's the background on this? In December, the library administration came to the Library Commission with its plan for installing RFID at the library. 12 years ago, this body rejected 2 years in a row the library's wish to fund the implementation of RFID. And that was in part because of our efforts to alert people to the implications for privacy, the bad implications, and because we worked with the American Civil Liberties Union and the Electronic Frontier Foundation to alert supervisors and the public about the serious privacy threats of RFID. So the supervisors rejected the funding that the library put forward at that time 2 years in a row. And we'd like to ask you to do the same thing if there is any aspect of the budget or of the library's intention to use any kind of money for RFID. Now, They said they would be back at the Library Commission with more information after December, but they never came back with more. There was never a decision at the Library Commission to install it. And despite assurances, I can't be sure. Why not? Because the library installed privacy-threatening bibliocommons. Just a few years ago, read my article in the Bay Area Reporter about the privacy threats. They did that with no public discussion at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Madam President, board members, my name is Otto Duffy. I live a couple of blocks over from City Hall. Normally I support inclusionary housing and trying to get it to the lowest income level possible, because I see, like, with homeless people and chronically and acutely homeless, that there's actually a mortality rate and there's a great hardship. But of course, our argument could be made that higher level income people also have hardships and suffering from housing shortage, and I think that's one little component of the tragedy that happened at the UPS, is that one of the individuals faced an unusually long commute in order to get to their work on top of everything else. And it would be those kind of studies, rather than the one that we got, the relative hardships of facing the different economics groups, that would be much more useful to the conversation. Basically everything we do in civil society is aimed at reducing violence. That's one of the things, the major outcome that we're hoping to achieve. We do it through many, many different ways. One of the things is free and fair voting. That's a basis of it. And we have an election today in Georgia where there's been illegal and unconstitutional voter suppression. The upshot of that is that the Democratic candidate essentially has to get 1 to 2% more votes than the Republican. It's an unbalanced thing. And as long as you have unbalanced political situations like that, you're courting the kind of violence and the kind of things that are going to undermine civil society that the tragedies, both of the tragedies that we saw last week.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, I just want to just say something about what we heard. And, I don't cover for homophobia. I know what homophobia is. I've experienced it. I've experienced violence. And I really think it's disgraceful to make comments about someone who is giving honorable public service and does not have a bone of homophobia in her body. And in this Pride Week, when we're faced with challenges at a national and a global level, to come and make these representations is absolutely insulting.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy. Madam Clerk, please read the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 25 through 27 are being considered for adoption without reference to committee. A single roll call vote may enact these items today.
Supervisor Peskin.
Would you sever item 26, please?
All right. Seeing no other names on the roster and the remaining items, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Sheehy. On items 25 and 27.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Aye. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. There are 9 ayes.
Those items are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 26.
Item 26 is a resolution declaring June 20th, 2017 as Alita Van Runkle Day in San Francisco in recognition of her many years of outstanding service in the City Attorney's Office and her well-deserved retirement.
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, we are losing yet another great Deputy City Attorney to retirement. Last week it was Noreen Ambrose. This week it is Alita Van Runkle, who has been toiling with a great sense of humor for 31 years in our City Attorney's Office. under a number of city attorneys. She has been involved in the gamut of work there, doing labor issues, neighborhood and community services, workers' comp, litigation, but most importantly, she was involved in landmark elderly abuse and women's health rights cases. She has been a phenomenal attorney. She's not here in the chambers today, but I hope, Alita, you are watching on TV. Thank you for your outstanding service to the city and county of San Francisco. You will be missed.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Colleagues, can we take that item, same House, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Yee for the late Mr. Alfred Lee, on behalf of President Breed for the late Mr. Ed Nevin Jr., on behalf of Supervisor Fewer and Supervisor Peskin for the late Mr. Paul Rosenberg, on behalf of Supervisor Peskin for the late Mr. Gershon Baker, Miss Barbara Kassoff, and Miss Catherine Kolsch, and on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors, at the suggestion of Supervisor Cohen, for the late Mr. Wayne Chan, Mr. Benson Louis, and Mr. Michael Lafitte.
Colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us today?
That concludes our business for today, Madam President.
Okay, I'll see you all at the parade Sunday. We are adjourned.